The rain poured softly over the narrow streets of the city, washing away the dust, but not the weight that lived in Arjun's heart. He sat by the small window of his rented room, staring at the droplets tracing lines down the glass. The hum of traffic outside was faint, but inside, silence wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Arjun was 24, hard-working, and full of dreams that seemed too large for his fragile world. By day, he worked at a tiny electronics shop, fixing broken phones for people who barely remembered his name. By night, he studied business on an old laptop that froze every few minutes, its dim screen lighting his tired eyes. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't hopeless. He was simply poor. And in this world, poverty had a cruel way of making people invisible. Still, he believed in love. He believed in Maya, the woman who once called him her forever. She was beautiful, confident, and the kind of girl whose smile could silence chaos. But lately, that smile had started to fade whenever she looked at him. "Arjun, I'm tired of living like this," she would whisper after another dinner of plain rice and vegetables. "Don't you ever want more?" Her words stung, not because she was wrong, but because he wanted more too. He wanted to give her the world, but the world seemed too far away. Every night, Arjun prayed silently. He told himself that someday his hard work would mean something, that one day he'd be able to give Maya everything she dreamed of. He looked around his room, the cracked walls, the flickering bulb, the torn curtains, and smiled sadly. "This isn't forever," he murmured. "One day, I'll make out of here." He didn't know how. He didn't know when. But he believed. Because sometimes belief is all a man has when the world gives him nothing else. The days began to blur together, and with each passing moment, something delicate between Arjun and Maya started to fade. What once felt unbreakable now felt uncertain, like a glass heart slowly filling with tiny cracks. Maya no longer laughed at his silly jokes or held his hand on the bus rides home. Her phone buzzed more often these days, her smile reserved for messages Arjun would never see. When he asked what was wrong, she would sigh and say, "Nothing, Arjun. I'm just tired." But it wasn't just tiredness. It was disappointment. She had begun comparing him to her friends' boyfriends, men who wore branded watches and drove shining cars. "Ria's boyfriend just got promoted," she mentioned one evening, her tone sharp as a blade. "He took her to Goa for the weekend. You can't even take me to dinner without checking your wallet twice." Arjun said nothing. He just smiled softly, hiding the ache in his chest. He wanted to tell her that every coin he saved was for their future, that every sleepless night was spent trying to build something better, but words felt too small to bridge the distance between them. Still, he tried. On her birthday, he skipped his meals for 2 days to buy her a simple silver bracelet. He wrapped it carefully in a small box, his hands trembling with hope. When he gave it to her, she smiled faintly, but her eyes didn't sparkle the way they used to. "It's nice," she said quietly. "But Arjun, sometimes love is enough." Those words broke something inside him. That night, as she slept beside him, he stared at the ceiling, wondering if love could survive in a world that measured worth in money. He wanted to scream, to tell her that he was trying, that he would make her proud one day, but he stayed silent, afraid that even his voice might sound poor. The space between them grew wider, filled with unspoken pain and fading promises. Arjun could feel it, the beginning of an ending he wasn't ready to face. The evening sky was painted in shades of orange and sorrow as Arjun walked toward the cafe where Maya had asked to meet. His heart beat faster with every step. Something inside him already knew this conversation would change everything. Maya was already there, dressed beautifully as always, her perfume faint but familiar. She didn't smile when he sat down. Her eyes were cold, distant, the kind of distance that words could no longer cross. "Arjun," she began softly, "I've been thinking a lot lately." He nodded, waiting, though his chest felt heavy. "You're a good man," she continued, "but I can't keep living like this. I need stability, a future." Arjun swallowed hard. "We have a future, Maya. I'm working every day." She cut him off, her tone sharper than she intended. "Working where, Arjun? Fixing phones? You can't even afford dinner in a decent restaurant. I'm tired of dreaming about a tomorrow that never comes. Her words hit him like stones. He wanted to defend himself, to remind her of the nights he stayed awake studying, the sacrifices he made for them. But all that came out was a trembling whisper. "Maya, I love you." She looked away, guilt flickering in her eyes. "Love doesn't pay bills," she said quietly. Silence hung between them like a storm about to break. Then she stood up, slipping her purse over her shoulder. "I met someone, Arjun. His name's Rohit. He can give me the life I've always wanted." The world seemed to stop. For a moment, Arjun couldn't breathe. The cafe noise faded, and all he could hear was the sound of his heart breaking. But he didn't beg. He didn't cry. He just looked at her, the woman who once promised forever, and said softly, "I hope he makes you happy." Then he stood, placed a few coins on the table for his tea, and walked out into the fading light. Outside, the rain began to fall again. The same rain that had once comforted him now felt colder than ever. He didn't look back, because some endings demand silence, not words. The days that followed were a blur of silence and exhaustion. Arjun's heart felt like a hollow room, echoing with memories of a voice that no longer called his name. He stopped checking his phone, stopped walking past the cafe where they used to meet. The city moved on, and so did time. But Arjun stood still, lost between who he was and who he wanted to become. One night, as he sat in his tiny room surrounded by unpaid bills and unfinished dreams, something inside him snapped. Not in anger, but in determination. He looked at the mirror and whispered to himself, "No one's coming to save you. Either stay broken or build again." That was the night Arjun changed. He quit his job at the repair shop and started learning coding and digital marketing online. He worked 12, sometimes 16 hours a day, building, failing, rebuilding. The same hunger that once longed for love now craved success. His pain became fuel, his loneliness a quiet teacher. Months passed. He faced rejection after rejection, investors who laughed at his ideas, and friends who told him to be realistic. But Arjun kept going. He stopped chasing approval and started chasing progress. Then, one evening, a small local business agreed to try his new digital service. Within weeks, their sales doubled. Word spread fast. Calls came in. Arjun hired 2 more people. Then 5. His startup, Blue Rise, slowly began to bloom. Every milestone came with a silent tear of pride, not for revenge, but for survival. He had learned the hardest lesson life could teach. That pain can either destroy you or define you. 2 years later, Arjun stood outside a new office building bearing his company's name. The same streets that once saw him walk in despair now witnessed his return as a man reborn. He smiled at the sky and whispered, "I made it. Not for Maya, not for anyone's approval." To the world, Maya's life looked perfect. Her social media sparkled with photos of luxury dinners, weekend trips, and expensive gifts. Every picture painted the story of a woman who had finally found happiness. But behind those smiles lay a silence that no filter could hide. Rohit, the man she had chosen over Arjun, was everything she once thought she wanted. Successful, confident, admired. But success had sharpened his arrogance, and confidence had turned control. He didn't ask, he ordered. He didn't love, he owned. In the beginning, she convinced herself it was just his way of caring. But soon, the truth became impossible to ignore. He mocked her opinions, belittled her dreams, and treated her like another trophy on his shelf. At night, when the lights dimmed and the laughter faded, Maya sat on the edge of their king-size bed, staring at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were still beautiful, but emptier now, tired from pretending. The diamond ring on her finger sparkled, but it felt heavy, like a chain made of guilt. She thought of Arjun, of his quiet smile, his kindness, the way he used to listen even when she said nothing at all. She had traded that warmth for glitter, and glitter fades fast. One night, while scrolling through her phone, she stumbled upon a news post. Young entrepreneur Arjun Mehra's startup Blue Rise expands internationally. Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the picture. Arjun, standing confidently in a crisp suit, his eyes calm, his smile peaceful. He looked like a man who had fought the storm and found his son. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. she whispered to herself. He did it without me. For the first time, Maya realized what she had truly lost. Not just love, but the man who believed in her even when she didn't believe in him. The world she had chosen began to feel like a cage made of gold. And with every passing day, its shine dimmed a little more. 2 years had passed since that rainy evening when Arjun walked out of the cafe with a broken heart. Time had rebuilt him, not just his life, but his spirit. Now, he was no longer the boy who fixed phones in a dusty shop. He was Arjun Mehra, founder of Blue Rise Technologies, a man whose story had begun in struggle and bloomed in silence. That evening, a charity gala was being held at one of the city's grand hotels. Blue Rise was sponsoring education for underprivileged children, a cause close to Arjun's heart. Dressed in a tailored suit, he moved through the crowd with quiet confidence, greeting guests with warmth and humility. Among the elegant faces in the hall was Maya. She hadn't planned to be there. Rohit had canceled last minute, and she attended on behalf of his company. She felt out of place, her once glamorous confidence replaced by quiet regret. When the announcer took the stage and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our chief guest, Mr. Arjun Mehra," Maya froze. Her glass nearly slipped from her hand. The spotlight found him, and time stood still. There he was, the man she had once left behind, calm, composed, radiant with the kind of success that didn't need to be flaunted. The applause echoed, but Maya heard only the sound of her heartbeat. Arjun's speech was brief but sincere. He spoke about perseverance, hope, and the importance of never giving up, words that struck deep in her chest. Every sentence felt like a mirror reflecting her mistakes. After the event, their eyes met across the room. For a moment, it was as if the years vanished. Maya slowly walked toward him, unsure of what to say. "Arjun," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You've changed." He smiled gently. "No, Maya," he said softly. "I just became who I was meant to be." There was no anger in his tone, no bitterness, only peace. That hurt her more than any harsh word ever could. As he turned to leave, Maya watched silently, tears gathering in her eyes. She realized that some goodbyes echoed louder the second time, especially when they're final. That night, after the gala, Maya sat alone in her car, her hands gripping the steering wheel as the city lights blurred through her tears. The image of Arjun, confident, kind, untouchable, kept replaying in her mind. He hadn't needed to show anger or pride. His calmness said everything. He had moved on, while she was still trapped in the past. For the first time in years, Maya felt small, not because of money or status, but because of the choices she had made. She thought of all the times Arjun had believed in her, how he had stayed up late just to make her smile, how he had loved her without condition, and she, blinded by greed and fear, had thrown it all away. When she returned home, Rohit was on the phone, laughing carelessly with someone else. He didn't even look up when she walked in. The sound of his voice felt like a cruel reminder of everything she had chosen over love. She slipped quietly into the bedroom, sat on the edge of bed, and wept. Her tears weren't for Arjun's success. They were for her own emptiness. Meanwhile, across town, Arjun stood on his balcony, looking out over the city skyline. The night air was cool, carrying the distant hum of traffic and the soft memory of his past. He thought about Maya, but not with anger, just a quiet sense of understanding. He knew now that some people aren't meant to walk beside you forever. They're meant to teach you how to stand alone. Before heading to bed, he made a decision. The charity fund he had launched that evening, he would dedicate part of it to women's education in Maya's name, not as a message, but as forgiveness. As the city slept, Arjun closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Maya, for leaving, because losing you taught me how to find myself." For the first time in a long while, both of them cried, one out of regret and the other out of peace. Morning arrived quietly, the city painted in gold and calm. Arjun woke early, as he always did, before the world stirred. He brewed his tea and stood by the window of his apartment. Now high above the skyline he once stared at from the streets below. Success surrounded him, but peace lived inside him. He had learned that peace was not found in wealth or recognition. It was born the moment you forgave the past and moved forward without hate. That day, Blue Rise was hosting a mentorship session for young entrepreneurs. Arjun stood before a group of dreamers who reminded him of his younger self. Hungry, uncertain, full of hope, he shared his story, not of heartbreak or revenge, but of transformation. "I once believed losing someone was the end," he said, his voice calm yet strong. "But sometimes it's the beginning of who you're meant to become." The room was silent, every pair of eyes fixed on him. "When life breaks you," he continued, "you have two choices. Stay shattered or rebuild stronger. Pain doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to shape you." Applause filled the hall, but Arjun smiled modestly. He had no desire to impress, only to inspire. Later that evening, as the sun dipped low, he drove past the old neighborhood where he used to live. The streets looked smaller now, but the memories still whispered from every corner. The cracked walls, the flickering lights, the dreams born in darkness. He stopped by a small stationery shop and handed the owner a donation envelope for local children. On the front, he wrote 3 simple words: "Never stop believing." Somewhere across town, Maya scrolled through her phone and paused on a video clip from Arjun's speech. His words echoed in her chest, breaking something and healing something at the same time. For the first time, she smiled, not with envy, but with genuine admiration. She whispered softly to herself, "He found his peace. I hope I find mine too." Life had taken them on different paths, but destiny had given them both what they needed, not what they wanted. As the night sky stretched wide above the city, Arjun sat on his balcony again, watching the stars appear one by one. His heart was light, his soul free, and in that quiet moment, he realized the greatest truth of all. Love may fade, people may leave, but self-respect and hard work never abandon you. In the end, the real cheat code of life is not luck. It's faith in yourself.